Okay, we are live. We'll just give maybe a minute for anyone who is joining us in the audience or who's on Twitter or YouTube, just for people to come on in. So, yeah, we'll get started. And then for some context for anyone who's new here, today we'll be doing the Mento Protocol Hackathon workshop. So for anyone who is part of the global stablecoin hackathon with MiniPay and Mento, today is your opportunity to actually learn more about Mento, learn how to build with Mento, and then learn how you can be successful during the hackathon. And this will also all be recorded, live streamed for later use. And then last thing, I want to just share the registration link for anyone who hasn't yet registered for the Global Stablecoin Hackathon. I'll post the link in the comments below. GM, thanks for joining us. All right. Gmento. Cool. So I just pinned the registration link in case you haven't yet registered for the Global Stablecoin Hackathon. Please register there and we'll accept you. All right, with that, I'm introducing Philip, who is does engineering at Mento Labs and who has a presentation for us today. Philip, feel free to take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Philip. I can't really see the chat, so I won't be able to directly react to any feedback, but I will read everything after the presentation. So let's get started. I will do a quick hackathon workshop around the Mento protocol, walk you through the core smart contract. We will take a look at some swap demos, quickly talk about the oracles, and then there will be some time for questions. So let's get started. Mento is a decentralized stablecoin platform which powers on-chain FX market. Mento has multiple stablecoins like the Euro stablecoin, CEuro, CUSD, CCAS, or the Colombian peso. And Mento essentially allows everyone to swap these tokens against collateral reserve assets, like, for example, Tether's USDT, USDC, EURC, or Celo. And both these stables and the reserve assets live fully on-chain, and are protected by on-chain security mechanisms like our trading limits, which limit the amount of net flow that can go through a trading pair in a certain period of time, as well as the circuit breakers, which protect the oracles and the oracle rates from potential manipulation. So let's quickly take a look at the core smart contracts. Every swap starts with the broker, which is like the entry point for any swap. And here I'm going to talk about an example where we swap some CUSD for USDC. So let's say we swap one CUSD for USDC. And the broker doesn't do the calculation around how much you should get out. Therefore, it has exchange providers. And one of these exchange providers is the buy pool manager. And the buy pool manager manages multiple pairs or pools between two assets. The pools are actual virtual pools, so there are no pools set up with actual funds, but more virtual accounting pools. And what the buy pool manager does, so let's say we go to the broker, we want to swap our one CUSD for USDC. The buy pool manager has a virtual pool between CUSD and USDC. And in order to price the swap, it needs an oracle price. So it will call the sorted oracles contract to get the current exchange rate of USDC to USD. And I already mentioned the circuit breakers. It's this box right here. And what the buy pool manager now does, it kind of asks the breaker box, how much trust do we have in this current rate feed? And do we want to allow trading for this rate feed? So it will ask the breaker box, is trading enabled for this rate feed? And if that's the case, it will use the current exchange rate together with our pricing modules to estimate the swap. We have two types of pricing modules. We have a constant sum pricing module and a constant product pricing module. These implement different formulas on how to price the swap. It's either constant sum or constant product. In our example of CUSD to USDC, it will be constant sum. And then it will return the amount out in USDC to the broker. And now the broker comes back into play, and what it does, it actually handles the funds. So it will transfer in, it will burn the CUSD we wanted to swap in, and it will return the USDC from the reserve. So this is roughly how swap works on a smart contract level. And let's go a bit deeper. So like I said, the broker is the entry point, and it also exposes a getter function for the BIPO manager, which does like all the accounting. So we can call exchange providers on the broker to get the address of the BIPO manager. And then the BIPO manager again exposes all our tradable pairs, which are directly tradable by one of these virtual pools. So if we call it get exchanges, we will get a list of pairs between Mento stables and collateral assets. For quoting, we have two different functions in a broker. So we can either call get amount in or get amount out. Get amount in lets you specify the amount out you want to get out, and it will return you the amount in that you need to provide to get this amount out. And on the other way around, get amount out will return to you how much you get out for a fixed amount in. And the same thing also works for swapping. So you can specify a fixed amount in you want to swap, and it will return the amount out, or you can specify a fixed amount out you want to get out of the swap, and it will return the amount in. So this was the example on how it works for a simple swap between one of these pairs. But let's say, for example, we want to go from CUSD to CEuro. The broker and the BIPO manager don't have a direct pair between CUSD and CEuro. So what we built is a router contract, which you can imagine sits on top here in front of the broker. And what the router contract will do is we will provide a path of swaps we want to do. So for example, we could say we first want to go from CUSD to USDC, and then again from USDC to CEuro. And in the end, we would do a swap from CUSD to CEuro. And this router contract is not also comes into place now, because now I'm going to do a quick demo. This is a demo on the smart contract level. So in this repo, I will also share this later. We have a demo contract, which is this one right here, which does an interaction with this router contract. So like in the example I mentioned before, we are going from CUSD via USDC to CEuro. And for example, this router is also what powers the MiniPay pockets. If you want to go from USDC to USDT, that's the router which under the hood does the swaps. So if we want to interact with the router contract, let's quickly check out the interface. We see it has a function, swap exact tokens for tokens, which takes in an amount in and a path. And this path consists of multiple steps, and each step is defined by an exchange provider, which will be the BIPO manager, an exchange ID, which will be a unique ID, which identifies these virtual pools in the BIPO manager, and an asset in and an asset out. So if we now want to do our swap from CUSD to CEuro, we have two steps that we need to construct. One step from CUSD to USDC, and one step from USDC to CEuro. So we are calculating the exchange IDs. They are simply a hash of the symbols of the two tokens together with the pricing module. So in this case, we take the symbol of CUSD, the symbol of USDC, and the string constant sum. We hash it, and we get the exchange ID for the CUSD to USDC exchange, and the same also for the USDC to CEuro exchange. So putting all this together, we can now construct our path. So we go from CUSD to USDC, and then from USDC to CEuro. So what this demo contract, essentially it's a super simple demo contract, which also doesn't bring a lot of value, but it's just to showcase how we can interact with this router contract. What it does, it takes the CUSD from the trader, which we'll call this function, and transfers it to this address. Then it will approve CUSD on the Mento router. So we need to give the Mento router the allowance to trade the CUSD from this demo contract. And then we will call the function on the router to swap CUSD to CEuro. And then after the swap is performed, what we do is we transfer back the CEuro to the trader. So what this repo also contains is some deployment infrastructure, which you guys can use, for example, if you want to deploy any smart contracts. By the way, this is in Foundry, which we use at Mento Labs for our tooling, but of course you can also use Hardhat or whatever you want. So let's quickly deploy this contract. So, by the way, this is a deployment to mainnet right now. So I'm deploying this demo contract to mainnet. And then in the next step, we're also going to perform a swap. So everything looks right. So this is where the broker demo contract was deployed to. So let's quickly check out the Explorer. And we can see we have our broker demo contract deployed. So now, in case you guys want to test your smart contract, there's also some infrastructure that Foundry provides for this. Here, for example, we wrote a fork test. So what this does, it forks Celo mainnet and then performs the test on top of the fork. Essentially here, I'm also just testing that the swap works and the funds end up at the end back at the trader account. We can also quickly run the test just to showcase how it's done. All right, everything green, so it looks good. So now, since the tests are green, we can actually perform a swap. So therefore, there's also a script folder, which is a simple script, which will run or create some transactions. So what's happening here? Let's replace this address with the broker demo contract we just deployed. And essentially what the script does is it approves the demo contract to spend the CUSD on our behalf, so on behalf of the trader account. It wants to swap 0.01 CUSD, and then it swaps them right here. So let's run the script, and then we should do an on-chain swap from CUSD to €. Sorry. Let's see. Right, looks good. So let's check out the transaction hash. Maybe we can even see it here, right? Yes, we see there's a new transaction 8 seconds ago, swapping CUSD for €. And now let's also quickly take a look what happened. This might look a bit overwhelming in the beginning, but it's super simple. I will quickly walk you through it. So this is my trader address. And in the first step, the trader sends 0.01 CUSD to the demo contract. Now the demo contract is interacting with the router contract, which routes multiple steps through the broker. So in the next step, the router sends 0.01, the demo contract sends 0.01 CUSD to the router contract. And now the router contract performs 2 swaps. The first one is from CUSD to USDC. And then in the second step, it performs a swap from USDC to €. So in the end, we see that my trader address ended up with $0.01 worth of €. And if we just check out the net transfers, we can also see it again. The trader sent 0.01 CUSD and received 0.08 €. All right. This is how the interaction is going to look like on the smart contract level. But if you guys just want to build an application on top of Mento and want to interact with the smart contracts on an application layer, we also have an SDK I want to show you guys. So this is an SDK examples repo, which shows an example on how to get a quote, how to do a simple swap, just interacting with the broker, or how to do a router swap. So let's start with the simple swap. This time we're on AlphaHorse, so on the testnet. And it's pretty simple. So first we import the SDK and we create a new instance of the Mento class. We pass a signer, which is like a combination of our private key and the provider. And in this scenario, we want to swap, we do a simple swap just through the broker from Celo to CUSD. So if we want to get a quote from the SDK, we just call get amount out with our token in, our token out, and our amount in. In the next step, we would need to approve. So we increase the allowance that the broker has on my address. So again, we can simply call increase trading allowance on the Mento SDK with the token we want to increase the allowance on, in this case, the Celo token, and the amount in. And since the final step we have to do is just perform the swap. So we call swap in on the SDK, same pattern. And we can also quickly do this. So we do the simple swap first. And we can see first here we are getting a quote. So how much CUSD do we get in exchange for our Celo? And then we are sending the increase allowance transaction. And now we are sending the actual swap transaction. Looks good. So let's take the transaction hash of this one as well. I have to be on the testnet explorer. And we can see this was a simple swap. So all we did is from my trader account again, we sent 0.01 Celo, and in return we got 0.028 CUSD. So like I said, we also have the router, and there's also an example on how to route multi-hop swaps through the SDK. It's pretty much the exact same setup. So we create our SDK instance with the signer. The only thing that is different now is that we have to construct a path, similar to how we did it on the smart contract level, but it's much easier. We just have to call find pairs for tokens. In this case, we want to go from CUSD to C euro. So we will go CUSD to Celo and then Celo to C euro. And again, we have to provide this path object to both our quote, our increased allowance, and our swap. So if we do all this, we should end up with some C euro. So let's try this one out as well. So now we are doing the router swap. Again, we are getting the quote. So how much C euro do we get in exchange for the CUSD? We are increasing the allowance. And now we are swapping. Looks good. So let's take the transaction hash of this one so we can quickly check it. All right, and you already see it's again a router swap, so we have multiple steps. But in the end, if we just take a look at the net transfers, we see first we sent 0.01 CUSD, and we ended up with 0.08 C euro in the end. So all those repos are shared, by the way. So if you want to check them out, okay, let's continue. Okay, I quickly also wanted to cover the oracles. So let's say in case you guys want to build anything on top of FX rates or need to consume some of these rates, we have the sorted oracles contract, which stores these rates. So we have different oracle providers for each rate, which report prices. And then what sorted oracles does, it sorts them and takes the median, which is also the price that we consume. So every swap is priced based off the current median rate. But you can also get all the rates. So for example, it could be 10 rates, and then this function will return you an array of rates, and this function will just return you the median. So if you need to any FX rates, you can call our sorted oracles contract. All right. I also prepared some useful links. So we have the Mento docs, which cover most of it. There's also some special pages, for example, the exchange IDs and rate feed IDs, which I briefly covered. But I don't know if you guys remember, but in the smart contract example, I was constructing the exchange ID for the exchanges, but they are also all listed here. So in case you guys want to check them, they are all in this list. And then, same for the rate feed ID. So if you want to query any of the rates, for example, in this case, for the Celo USD rate, this is the rate feed identifier you need to pass to sorted oracles to get the correct rates. All right, what else do we have? We have the SDK repo, which is here. We have the SDK examples repo, which I shared. We also have the hackathon demo in case you want to build on top of Foundry or want to use the same tooling as we do. Also, the deployment addresses are in the docs. So in case you want to interact with Alpha Horus, here are all the smart contracts we have, and there are Alpha Horus addresses, and the same thing for Celo mainnet. Yes. Also, if you guys have any questions during the next weeks, you can join our Mento Discord, and there's a developers channel where me and my fellow engineers will answer all of you guys' questions. And in case you guys want to deploy to testnet first and test it, there's also an faucet which you can use to get some testnet Celo. Also, if you're interested in what we are building, you can follow us on X, or of course, join our Discord. And yeah, I think now is the best time to ask any questions. So let me stop sharing my screen.
Great. We have a few questions. Where can people find maybe all those links that you mentioned?
Can we maybe share the slides?
Yes, we can definitely share the slides.
Okay.
They're shareable right now. I can just ping them to this chat one. And then we also have that Telegram for the actual MiniPay, the Global Stablecoin Hackathon. So that's typically what builders who are part of the hackathon are in. So we can share that there and even link to the Discord in case that's like a faster way at contacting the Mento team.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna share them in there.
Great.
Right. Anything else?
Let's see. Yeah, no other questions right now that I see. But yeah, we will send all links to all of this in our Telegram group. So if you haven't already, join that Telegram channel. It's pinned in the comments of this on YouTube and on StreamYard. So check that out if you need. And if you lose any of these links, check out Celo Devs on Twitter. The very first pinned post is about the Global Stablecoin Hackathon. Once you register, you'll get all these links emailed to you, and you'll be able to join our group chat. Find that there. Great. Philip, while we have a few extra minutes, maybe you could share what are some of the types of things that you're hoping to see builders build? That was a common question we get from builders with Mento.
Oh, it's a good question. I think we are always interested in like cross-border payments or remittances. So anything in this direction would be interesting. Of course, also borrowing and lending, I think, is a big aspect with local currency. So if you guys want to build around this, I think we would really love to see some cool projects. And yeah, I don't know how much info was shared to them regarding the tracks.
Yeah, we shared the tracks, different examples. I know it's like with MiniPay, so it's also kind of what are local stablecoin use cases that you might have in your local region. So we shared earlier before, but all of this tooling is super, super helpful. And we'll have another workshop on Friday with Portal. So they, I believe, also have a bunch of stablecoin tooling that can be helpful for builders. So those are some other resources to share.
Okay, nice.
Awesome. Well, if that is all, that is, oh yeah, we have, when will we get the ZAR stablecoin?
I know some engineers who are working really hard on it. I think it will be out in the next weeks.
Super exciting. Awesome. Well, if those are all the questions that we have, thank you, Philip, so much for joining us. We will have this workshop pinned, and you can find the slides and all the links that Philip mentioned. Philip, actually, could you send that into the Telegram chat right after this?
Sure, I will do it.
So people can reach out to you. Awesome.
Perfect.
You're there. And yeah, and Zarcoin soon. All right.
All right. Thank you.